Welcome, one and all, to developer update number 6 for the highly anticipated upcoming game by Bandai Namco Entertainment, Blue Protocol. Today we have some very exciting new information to share with the community. I'm your host, Frosted Coffee, and let's adventure into the Aster Leads as we take a look at these new details. Today, the developers of Project Sky Blue started off with their usual format and opening messages. They started off with saying that players are concerned about the cancellation of Blue Protocol, and they wanted to reassure fans that they have no plans to cancel the game at all. Simply due to COVID, it is taking longer for the development team to make the game. They also joked about how it was simply due to slow internet. In the beginning, they shared with us screenshots from the closed beta test participants and artwork from the fans via Twitter. The content for today's developer update contains 4 major topics: general, CBT feedback, common gestures, supporting battle NPC Fest, and a brand new class reveal with a slight bonus towards the end. Let's jump into it. Before we begin, there are a few things within this developer update that is being recapped from previous information, so please bear with me. Let's begin with general and CBT feedback. Character customization new changes. They have character customization body parts that are improved upon, brand new voices, special accessories such as Fest's horns, underwear customization. And now let's talk about battle improvements. Players can now lock on with slight improvements with an autofocus function on enemies throughout the field. This is being worked on and slowly improved, so please keep that in mind. Let's talk about graphical updates. Players can now toggle effects on and off in depth with detail. Dodging in-game can now be keybind-wise be set up to double tap the dodge key in order to dodge effectively. So you don't have to keep double tapping the dodge key in order to dodge out of the way. You can now keybind it so that it automatically double taps for you. Now, I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing in terms of the casual play or making it a little bit more competitive. I don't know what the point is of doing that, but let's continue. As mentioned before, developers have changed the location for the first raid portal / instance to a different location. I think a lot of us were able to participate in, for those of you who were able to participate in closed beta test number 1, remember the horrors of that day. Let's go back to the main city. I hear wind in my ears. Is that the actual game? I think that might be the actual game. No! I'm done. I'm done. I'm walking away from this game right now. Now let's check out combat and skill improvements for base classes. There is a video for Aegis Fighter, Twin Striker, Blast Archer, and Spellcaster. Each class has added charging attacks, dodging attacks, altitude bonus, just-in-time evasion, skills, and actions have also been improved, and freedom to build your class the way you see fit.
よりタンクっぽい敵士ビルドみたいな感じですかね。はい。次は。で変わってちょっと今度イージスの光属性の特化ビルドですね。属性はエネミーごとに弱点があったりとかしますし、属性を重ねることでバーストとかも狙っていけますので、その辺いろいろ属性とかもできるようになっています。 時々丸いピュンってこう回避した後出てるのがジャスト回避ですね。
でこちらのツインストライカーは、ドレインビルドですね、持ってるスキルが、ドレイン効果を持ってるスキルを多く持ってまして、なので、スーパーアーマーで、避けずにスーパーアーマーで敵の攻撃を、あえて受けたりとかっていうのをしたりはしております。
受けてもそのまま吸収しながら戦えると。
でこっちは CBT の時もありましたけども、光属性の、特化ビルドとなっております。今ちょっとダメージとかで足りないですけども、
火ですね。
火属性、炎属性ですね。
で、アーチャーですけれども、これはさ、デバフビルドですね。敵の行動を阻害したりとか、敵に、状態異常だったりとか、そういう状態をかけるような特化したビルドになってます。今ちょっとスピードダウンとかがついたんですけども、
ちょい見たことないスキルが出てますね。
そうですね。はい。
回復っていうよりはデバフに割と、
デバフ状態異常、はい、今ちょっと毒入れましたけれども、はい、そういったところに特化した、ビルドとなっています。で、こっちの、アーチャーは、サポートというかバフビルドは、サポートビルドですね。今、クイックインターバルで、リキャストを早くしましたし、そんな感じで、眠らせて、状態異常回復をしたり、ヒールをかけたりっていうところをかけております。
サポートに特化していくということで、バフとか回復を。
で、スペルキャストはちょっと前のちょっと動画とかでもやりましたっけね、ちょっと有価のところが分かりやすい、ビルドですけれども、このスペルキャスターは、炎属性特化ビルドとなっています。持ってる攻撃スキルが、全部炎属性なので、属性弱点が分かっているときはこういうところを狙っていくっていう、特化となっております。
As you can see, some of them have gone with a complete support, elemental, and or damage/defense builds across the various classes. According to the developers, the skills and various combo chains have improved a lot, especially for accuracy, than before. Enemies now have new attack patterns. From the open world, dungeons to raiding, everyone has been improved. Equipment presets. I, for one, am super happy they added this to the game. Like Final Fantasy XIV and other MMORPGs, if you switch classes or swap jobs, you would expect to be able to keep the design or build that you made while swapping between the various different setups. Well, unlike closed beta test number 1 and the stress test of closed beta test number 2, we can now easily swap without having to reapply our imagines and job gear. I don't know how many times I forgot to reapply my own imagine for battle. It's so many times. Constantly clicking the button only to find out I forgot to reapply my imagine. Keep in mind you can't change them in dungeons or raids, but it is ease of access for the user in the open world. Viewing skills from other classes while on a current one is now also possible. A brand new mode has also been announced, Blue Protocol's Training Mode. A new instance training mode allows you to, like in Final Fantasy XIV, strike a dummy and practice your combos and builds. For those that remember Stone, Sky, and Sea from Final Fantasy XIV, this is a very similar concept. The developers are working on level sync of imagines between classes during this as well. Mounts. Mounts in Blue Protocol now have 0 energy, meaning you no longer need energy in order to ride a mount. As everyone remembers from closed beta test number 1, we ran out of energy fairly quickly in Blue Protocol. And the only way to be able to have our mounts regain energy was by returning to the Astralead's main city. Now let's talk about dungeons. Many people, myself included, felt very annoyed that many players were able to easily rush through a high-level dungeon without having to do much effort. The mobs would despawn and wouldn't continue to chase the aggro player, making it very easy to get to the end boss of the instanced dungeon. However, they confirmed today that mobs will now follow you forever. Keep in mind this is a temporary solution and attempt to alleviate the issues from before. In my opinion though, I feel like they should create some kind of barrier in each dungeon, stopping players in their tracks until they defeat the mob of enemies. They already do this with trials within the dungeon, so I can't see why they aren't able to do this like in Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn when they first started doing that. Appearances. Players can now toggle weapons in towns or fields. I'm super happy for this option, especially for screenshots. Loading times. Developers are improving loading times for Blue Protocol between zones. Now, I want to park the brakes right here. This is purely speculation on my part. However, knowing Bandai and the games they've published, it makes me wonder if they have any plans for the next generation consoles, namely the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Knowing how fast PlayStation 5's SSD is and Xbox's quick resume functions, just in general the load times for all systems, it makes me wonder if Project Sky Blue has any plans to release Blue Protocol on consoles. The developers already have gamepad functions in the game, so I would have to assume they would eventually release on console or at launch. Now let's talk about the UI/HUD options. Minimaps have been improved and can be applied in different sizes. The same has been improved for dungeons as well. Players in a party will now enter and exit into the same designated channel so that you and your friends will no longer have to keep searching for one another just so that you can be together. So for those of you that remember, sometimes you may find yourselves like going into a different area and then they're not there while they're in a different channel. So now it will allow you to be connected together always, and you won't have to ever leave or find yourselves in different channels to go into the different various zones or the main city. I hope this is the same in regards to dungeons, as during the stress test of closed beta test number 2, I actually was disconnected with half of my other party members while trying to queue up for a dungeon. So that really sucked. I hope they do change that. Number of quests displayed on screen has now been changed, and a menu to view other quests active as well. The developers have now added a customizable shortcut menu to quickly access specific tabs that you want to access on the fly. So I really like that. I'm glad that they did that because it's like having your own little mini menu or something like that down somewhere in a corner, and you can easily access parts or your friends list or something like that at ease, kind of. So I'm glad that they did that. There's also chat function. Developers now allow players to be able to chat during story missions and access different menus during those missions. They said they don't want to inconvenience the player by not being able to talk, so they opened up the option for that specifically. Inventory revision. The inventory has had an overhaul. Players now have infinite inventory space. They agreed with many fans, and they also got very annoyed with the style from closed beta test number 1 and 2. It has now been changed. You can now register an Imagine or weapon on the wish list. This will show you what you need material-wise in order to complete that task. So if you were, say, upgrading your weapon, or you were trying to go for a specific Imagine, you can now have a menu somewhere or something like that where you can easily find what you need easily, instead of having to constantly go back to town like we did in closed beta test number 1 and 2, or sorry, closed beta test number 1 specifically, and look at the menus or the material list, and then having to go back into the world and quickly do that. I know some fans actually made that comment on one of my videos when I actually had to constantly go back and forth into town just to look at the material list so that I could get my weapon upgraded. So I'm glad that they added that. Let's now talk about NPCs. Improvement of selecting and interacting with objects and NPCs have been updated. That's awesome. Let's talk about the player interaction. The devs have now made a list of near players to interact with. This is a great idea, especially if you saw someone you wanted to interact with from a distance and were unable to click on their character, or say during an event or a large crowded area. Everyone remembers the end of the closed beta tests, or when it's going in shutdown or maintenance or something like that. Everyone decided to gather into the middle of the Asterlead's main city and dance and hang out and stuff like that. And say you saw someone that you wanted to hang out with or chat with specifically, you can now find a quick access list to find players within the area to be able to quickly go and talk to them. So I really like that function. That's awesome. This ends the closed beta test feedback and revisions. Continuing on, the developers showcased brand new gestures or emotes added to the game, such as rock, paper, scissors, a romantic holding hands gesture. Even when the hands are swapped, positions for the characters in game will be able to be handled easily in game so that the characters, whether they're on the left or the right, will handle the characters properly when holding hands. They even attempted holding hands with 3 characters. Moving on to the juicy details we have all been waiting for is Fest as a supporting battle NPC. Fest will help with buffs and debuffs. She will also perform ranged attacks while in battle alongside you.
ちょっとね撮影難しいんですよ。
そうですカメラに映らなくてですね。で今はい攻撃しましたけれども、
バフでバフっていう感じ
そうですね。3する、攻撃を、フェスではしてくれます。で他にもですね、はい今みたいな形でバフをはいプレイヤー側にかけてくれます。でこれがまあ攻撃力アップだったり防御力アップだったり、スーパーアーマーとかそういうところいろんな要素がはい入った、バフをかけてくれる。
いつもイケイケゲボクゲボク
Now for the details all of you are very excited to hear about, the brand new class. It is known as the Heavy Smasher, and this class has officially been revealed from the developers. The Heavy Smasher wields a massive hammer or sphere, allowing you to melee attack and perform combos from up to close and personal with charged attacks and fire the sphere at will. The class is slow, but it is a powerful class against armored enemies. It also has skills related to heavy armor protection, but slows down your character further if used. This is useful in places like raids trying to revive fallen allies. Here's a side note though. As seen in the video, a new hairstyle was also showcased. Looks like a traditional female hairstyle. They also have unique gear compared to previous characters and classes. As the developers closed the stream, they talked about the opening to Blue Protocol, which was very exciting to hear about. They said it looks a lot like an anime with the screenshot of Fest as the cover photo that they showed to us. They can't show it off just yet, as it is currently still being made with a lot of detailed work and audio-visual cues going into the project. So we'll have to stay tuned until we hear more information on that. With that being said, that brings us to the end of Blue Protocol's latest developer update. After everything recapped and shown so far, it makes me think that Blue Protocol is nearly complete. Of course, over the last few months, we have seen a lot of content that points to the game at the end of development and being prepared for launch. While they had nothing to say about the release date for both Japan or globally, we will have to continue and speculate and wonder when a brand new trailer for Blue Protocol will sweep us off of our feet. Right now, I am secretly hoping that we have an open beta test soon, but who knows? As always, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to comment your thoughts in the comment section down below. Like the video, and if you enjoyed today's video and want to see more, please consider supporting my channel. Until next time, Blue Protocol fans, and of course, stay frosty, everyone.